Many of you still play board games, which is good for you. You got to get away from the video craze. And many of you have played Scrabble. Our next guest got to experience the game at a much different level. Mark Abadi is, you'll find his work at Business Insider, covers news, politics, and even much more, and got a chance to play in the North American Scrabble Championship. Mark, good morning. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
All right. How did you get in this event?
Well, to play in the North American Scrabble Championship, you have to be a member of the North American Scrabble Players Association, and that's all there is. So all around the country, there are tournaments going on, small tournaments. There are local clubs in pretty much every major city in the country, and you can participate in tournaments there and eventually participate in the North American Scrabble Championship.
So I would imagine quite a serious event. This is in New Orleans. How many participants in the overall event?
There were close to 400 people this year, and they divide it based on skill level. So you have, the elite players in one division, and I'm not quite there yet, so I was down in Division 3.
So down in Division 3, and that's just based on how you've competed in tournaments? Does that determine how you were getting seeded?
Yeah, basically every player is assigned a rating, and your rating goes up or down depending on whether you win or lose games in other tournaments. So, so basically my rating put me in Division 3 this year.
Tell me, when you went there, what is the one or two things first that stood out, even before you started playing, to realize, wow, there's a Scrabble world out there that I didn't even realize? What stood out to you before even matches started to take place?
Yeah, it's kind of overwhelming. Like when you just first walk into the room, it's in this big hotel conference room. The entire ballroom is basically just filled with tables. And there are Scrabble decorations everywhere, and you can hear the rattling of tiles when people are, selecting their tiles. So definitely the sights and sounds put me in the mood, I guess, before the competition even started.
You wrote about, and there's pictures along with the story itself at Business Insider, there's something kind of eerie, odd when play begins. The only sound you hear are the tiles, correct? It has to be kind of weird, is it not?
Yeah, it's actually a lot different than, if you're just playing with your friends around the living room table, you're chatting, you're talking. In tournament Scrabble, there is no communication whatsoever except for announcing your score, and if there's a blank tile, you have to designate the blank tile. But besides that, there's no talking. The only thing you can hear are those shuffling tiles.
Now, are you playing the same game that, myself and friends would play? Is it the same format? And then as I learned, you're not playing with the same tiles that we would play with. Why?
Yeah, so Scrabble players have their own equipment that you can't really buy in a store. So we use plastic tiles that are laser printed. The reason we do that is because if you go to the store and buy a regular Scrabble set, you're going to get wooden engraved tiles. And if you play enough, you could theoretically reach into the bag and feel the letter that you're about to select if you're, really good. Or you can especially feel if it's a blank tile. So to prevent that, we use plastic tiles that are not brailleable, as Scrabble players say.
What's a typical game like? Again, the concept is put words together, get as many points. Is there a time limit that comes into play, and what happens over word disputes?
Yeah, so in Tournament Scrabble, we use a clock, kind of like chess. Your turn is over once you hit the clock, and you have 25 minutes for the whole game to use however you want. So if you want, you could spend 5 seconds on a move, or you could spend 5 minutes, as long as you can budget your time for the whole game. And once you go overtime, you start to lose 10 points for every minute you go over.
When someone puts a word out there and you're not sure, what happens then? Who determines if the word is legit or not, and what about disputes?
So this is actually a very interesting process. So if, let's say you play a word, and I'm not sure if that's valid. I'm going to say hold, which means I'm not going to let you select your next tiles until I think about it a little bit more. Then I can challenge the word if I want to, at which point I'll stop the clock, and the two of us will walk over to a specially designated computer area where we can open up the Scrabble word verification program and verify whether it's a word or not. If it is a word, then I lose my turn. If it's not a word, you lose your turn.
What's a closed board?
Yeah, so once you get into Tournament Scrabble, you'll start to kind of learn all the lingo and all the strategy. And a closed board is a type of game where both players are playing very defensively. So you'll start to play words that do not take S's at the end of it, for example. Like if I play a word like I don't know, men. Obviously, that cannot take an S at the end of it. So if I play something like that, it'll really shut down the board and limit the opportunities that my opponent can play.
Well, how'd you do in the tournament?
I did much better than I expected. So in my division, I was the 52 seed out of 89 competitors, and I went 19-12 and finished in 8th place.
How good are the best players at Scrabble? Again, a guy may say, I play Scrabble, I win all the time with my friends, but give me an idea about how good an elite level Scrabble player is.
Elite Scrabble players play a totally different game. If you take a look at one of their boards, you will actually question whether this is actually English or not, because probably more than 50% of the words the average person has never seen before. I can beat a regular casual Scrabble player probably by 150, 200 points, but then I will lose to an elite Scrabble player by 150, 200 points.
What's a common mistake a weekend Scrabbler like me? What's a common mistake we make? We think, give me the Z, give me the Y, give me the X, and stuff like that. What's a common mistake that we make playing Scrabble?
You know, a common mistake that people make is they don't trade their letters enough. Because in Scrabble, if you're not satisfied with your letters, you can trade however many you want in and sacrifice your turn. A lot of beginner players are kind of hesitant to do that. But at the expert level, you'll see people all the time. It's not uncommon to see it happen twice a game, but more realistically, once a game. They will just trade in letters they don't like and move on and hopefully get some better letters next time.
Do you have a go-to word that's worth a lot of points that you like to use?
Oh, there are so many words, especially words with like Z's and Q's. I know Scrabble players love studying. They dedicate hours and hours to memorize lists of words that fall into specific categories. So, for example, the word Zechin, I don't even know how to pronounce it, Z-E-C-H-I-N. And if you tack on the S to that, it becomes a 7-letter word, which gives you a 50-point bonus. So words like that are extremely valuable to know.
Will you be back and play again next year?
Absolutely. Next year it is in Buffalo, so it's a little less welcoming than New Orleans, but either way, I'll be excited to play.
Interesting story. You can find it at Business Insider. You can also get there from Mark's Twitter, which is at MARK_ABADI, and learn all about what happened at the Scrabble National Championship. Mark, thank you. I appreciate it. Best of luck next time.
All right, thanks a lot, Mark. Bye.
Next time.
All right, thanks a lot, Mark. Bye.
Next time.